Before the world knew rock and roll, before the airwaves crackled with rebellion, there was a sound. A primal, joyous, earth-shattering scream that didn't just announce a new era, it demanded it. This is the story of the man who kicked open the doors of convention, danced on the hinges, and lit the entire music world on fire. Little Richard. Imagine a world in muted tones, where conformity was king and expression was often stifled. Then, a single piano note rings out, followed by an explosion of sound. It was a drum beat, a preacher's fervor, and the defiant roar of a man who knew he was destined for more than washing dishes. Awop-bop-aloobop, alop-bam-boom. With that iconic phrase, Little Richard Penniman didn't just enter music history, he redefined it. He wasn't just a musician, he was a force of nature, a flamboyant comet streaking across a conservative sky. The year was 1955. America was a land of stark contrasts, legally segregated, with societal norms as rigid as steel. Yet, from the heart of the Deep South, a young black man emerged, draped in glitter and defiance, ready to rewrite the cultural DNA of the planet. He didn't ask for permission, he simply commanded attention. Richard Penniman, soon to be known as Little Richard, didn't just sing. He performed an exorcism on the blandness of the era. His music was a vibrant splash of color on a black and white canvas, a sonic revolution that transcended racial and social barriers. He was a living, breathing challenge to the status quo. His breakthrough hit, Tutti Frutti, wasn't just a catchy tune. It was a cultural earthquake. Most people remember the sanitized version, but its original lyrics were far too audacious for 1950s radio. Little Richard himself famously quipped, "Everybody knew this ain't about ice cream." He was right. It was about liberation. Before he commanded stadiums and inspired generations, Richard Penniman was scrubbing plates. He toiled in a Greyhound bus station kitchen in Macon, Georgia, the relentless clatter of dishes echoing his own internal yearning. "I had been washing plates for so long I was tired," he recalled. This wasn't just physical exhaustion, it was a spiritual weariness, a deep-seated conviction that he was made for something grander, something louder, something that demanded to be seen and heard. This inner fire fueled his relentless pursuit of a musical career. He sent a raw, unpolished demo tape to Specialty Records in Los Angeles. It was so rough, the label initially ignored it, leaving it to gather dust. But Richard's spirit was indomitable. He called and called again, his persistence a testament to his unwavering belief in his own destiny. "Have you heard my tape yet?" he'd ask. "No, Richard," they'd reply. "Okay," he'd assert, "but you will." His sheer will eventually forced them to listen, and when they did, history cracked open, revealing a sound unlike anything they had ever encountered. When Little Richard first entered a recording studio in New Orleans, producers struggled to capture his raw energy. They recognized talent, but the true magic remained elusive. It took a legendary venue, the Dewdrop Inn, to unlock his full, unbridled power. Producer Bumps Blackwell followed Richard to this iconic black performance club, a place where the very air vibrated with rhythm, sweat, and uninhibited expression. It was here, amidst the pulsating energy, that Richard truly unleashed himself. He jumped on the piano and, with a primal roar, delivered the line that would echo through eternity. Awop-bop-aloobop, alop-bam-boom. The room fell silent, captivated. Blackwell's jaw dropped. Musicians froze, as if the universe itself had paused to witness this unprecedented moment. They had never heard anything like it because nothing like it had ever existed. This wasn't just music. It was a declaration of independence. This sound was Little Richard breaking free from every societal constraint: race, gender, class, religion, identity. It was rebellion disguised as pure, unadulterated joy, a testament to the power of authentic self-expression. It was a moment that transcended entertainment, becoming a profound cultural statement. The original lyrics of Tutti Frutti were, to put it mildly, creatively audacious. They were born from the vibrant, often queer-coded black nightlife scene where Richard honed his craft. Deacon John, a contemporary, plainly stated, the lyrics could be interpreted as gay sex. In 1955, this was not just controversial, It was scandalous, a direct challenge to prevailing moral codes. Producer Bumps Blackwell, recognizing the song's undeniable energy, but also its commercial impossibility, intervened. He famously told Richard, "Son, I love your energy, but we do want this song on the radio, don't we?" This pragmatic decision led to a rapid rewrite. Out went the risqué lines, replaced by innocent names like Daisy and Sue. In a mere 15 minutes, the song was transformed, cleaned up just enough to pass muster with conservative radio stations. The new version became a massive hit, while the original remained a legendary secret, a testament to the song's subversive origins. This transformation highlights the tightrope Little Richard walked, pushing boundaries while navigating the harsh realities of a segregated and conservative society. Yet, even in its sanitized form, Tutti Frutti retained its revolutionary spirit, its infectious joy a Trojan horse for cultural change. Enter Pat Boone, the epitome of clean-cut, wholesome American youth. He was the sweater-wearing, church-going crooner who embodied everything mainstream 1950s. America deemed safe. Boone recorded his own version of Tutti Frutti, a sanitized rendition aimed squarely at white audiences. It sold 1 million records, far outselling Richard's original at the time. Many artists would have been furious, seeing it as cultural appropriation or outright theft. But Little Richard, with his profound understanding of his own power, saw it differently. "They opened a door that was locked and I couldn't get in," he reflected. He understood that Boone's version, however diluted, amplified his creation, forcing the world to acknowledge the source. Boone didn't steal his song. He inadvertently magnified the doorway, drawing attention to the true originator. Richard knew his unique sound and flamboyant style could never be truly duplicated. He was the architect, and Boone was merely a decorator. This perspective reveals Richard's deep self-assurance and his strategic understanding of the music industry's racial dynamics. At the zenith of his fame, with the spotlight blazing and crowds roaring, Little Richard did the unthinkable. He walked away. Not in scandal or defeat, but in a profound spiritual awakening. Returning from a tour in Australia in the late 1950s, his plane encountered a violent storm. Lightning flashed, engines glowed ominously, and the aircraft was tossed violently. In that terrifying moment, Richard didn't see danger. He saw divine intervention. He believed angels were holding the plane aloft. Shortly after, following a show in Sydney, he witnessed a fiery red object streaking across the night sky. It was Sputnik 1, the Soviet satellite, but to Richard, it was a celestial sign, a direct message from God. A powerful voice within him commanded, "Leave rock and roll, come back to God." And just like that, the man who had electrified the world stepped off the stage and into a seminary. This dramatic pivot was a testament to the deep spiritual conflict that always simmered beneath his flamboyant exterior, a struggle between the sacred and the secular that defined much of his life. Imagine the scene, a quiet church, hushed prayers, and then Little Richard, in all his eyeliner and pompadour glory, walks in. He renounced rock and roll, repented his past, married, and began to preach. He earnestly tried to walk a narrow, quiet path, seeking solace and redemption. But Little Richard was never meant for quiet. Even in the pulpit, his sermons were infused with the same electrifying energy that defined his music. He declared, "I consider my music sacred. It's a song of love and joy." He believed his iconic scream, that glorious cosmic cry, wasn't rebellion, but a profound release, a means of survival, a pure expression of joy in a world that constantly tried to diminish him. Religion didn't silence him. It merely confirmed what he already knew. His voice was a force of nature, too powerful to be contained. His spiritual journey was not a rejection of his essence, but an attempt to reconcile the disparate parts of his complex identity. He was a preacher with the soul of a rock star, and a rock star with the heart of a preacher. 5 years after his dramatic departure, the irresistible pull of music called him back. That restless spark, ignited in his youth, reignited. Europe, ever more open to his unique artistry, welcomed him with open arms. And suddenly, a new generation of musical giants, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, James Brown, Otis Redding, Bob Dylan, David Bowie were all watching, learning, and absorbing his blueprint. Keith Richards famously recounted how he and Mick Jagger would sneak into the rafters to study Richards' electrifying performances. "We watched from above to see how hard you'd have to work if you wanted to do this stuff," he said. Little Richard wasn't just a performer, he was a living masterclass, a hurricane of talent that taught a generation of legends how to command a stage and ignite an audience. He was more than an influence. He was the foundational text, the original blueprint for rock and roll showmanship. His return wasn't just a comeback, it was a reaffirmation of his unparalleled status as an innovator and an icon. The students had become stars, but they never forgot their teacher. By 1972, Little Richard was considered a golden oldie, a man in his late 30s, ancient by the fleeting standards of early rock. Yet, he returned to London to co-headline the London Rock and Roll Show at Wembley Stadium, ready to reclaim his throne. And what a return it was. His eyebrows glittered, his bouffant hair towered, and his clothes shone like a walking disco ball. He screamed into the camera, "Let it all hang out with the beautiful Little Richard from down in Macon, Georgia. I am the king of rock and roll." An interviewer, perhaps overwhelmed, softly asked, "Were you always so shy? Shy? Richard?" The man who invented flamboyance, who played the piano with his feet, who defied every expectation. It was the most hilariously understated question in BBC history. His performance at Wembley was a triumphant declaration, a vivid reminder that his power, his charisma, and his unique brand of joy were timeless. He was, and always would be, the Peacock King. At his core, Richard Penniman was a man in constant reconciliation. He wrestled with faith and fame, sexuality and identity, pain and joy, history and destiny. He was openly gay for much of his life, yet renounced it during periods of intense religious devotion. He loved men, he loved women, he loved music, and he loved God. He reveled in being larger than life, yet yearned to be understood as simply human. Richard's complexity was his brilliance. He was a walking contradiction, a flamboyant preacher, a queer icon in a conservative era, a sacred and secular force. This internal struggle fueled his art, making his performances resonate with a raw, authentic power. He was a pioneer, not just in music, but in self-expression, daring to live authentically in a world that demanded conformity. His journey reflects the broader struggles of the LGBTQ community, particularly in an era where such identities were suppressed or condemned. Richard's very existence on stage, in all his glittering glory, was an act of defiance and a beacon of hope for countless individuals seeking to embrace their true selves. He showed the world that authenticity, even when contradictory, could be a source of immense power and inspiration. It's easy to overlook now, in a world saturated with rock, pop, and flamboyant performers, but none of it existed in this way before Little Richard. He didn't just influence, he created the template. Freddie Mercury, Prince, David Bowie, they all walked through the door Richard kicked open. Jimi Hendrix played in his band, learning the very essence of stage presence and musical fire. James Brown, Otis Redding, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, all acknowledged him as a primary source of inspiration. Keith Richards' observation, "Watching him taught us how hard you might have to work to do this," speaks volumes. Little Richard wasn't just a performer. He was a university of rhythm, movement, and soul. He invented chaos as stagecraft, gender bending as performance art, and vocal acrobatics as a standard. When Queen played Wembley in 1986, they performed Tutti Frutti as a tribute, a powerful acknowledgement of the man who built the very foundations of their stadium rock empire. His roots run deep, his echoes reverberate through every genre, every flamboyant gesture, every electrifying scream that followed. That immortal cry, Awop-bop-aloobop, alop-bam-boom, is loud, wild, and seemingly nonsensical. Yet, it makes perfect sense. Little Richard once revealed its profound origin. It began as a coded protest in the very Greyhound bus station kitchen where he washed dishes. His boss relentlessly piled greasy pots into his sink, and one day, Richard snapped, not violently, but musically. He hollered, "Awop-bop-aloobop, alop-bam-boom! Take 'em out!" It was frustration transmuted into art, grief into rhythm, oppression into an infectious melody. This was the genius of Little Richard. He could transform a mundane, oppressive act into a generational anthem. His scream was a primal release, a declaration of self against the dehumanizing grind of labor and societal expectations. This origin story adds a layer of profound meaning to his most famous utterance. It wasn't just a catchy phrase, it was a battle cry born from the depths of his lived experience, a testament to his ability to find joy and defiance, even in the most challenging circumstances. It was a sacred noise, a secret meaning, a testament to the power of music as a tool for liberation. Before the world heard Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, it was something far more raw, forbidden, and explicit. The original lyrics, born from the vibrant, often underground, queer black nightlife scene, were not about ice cream or fruit. Those who heard the first version understood its true, risqué meaning, a meaning that would have instantly shut down any radio station in the 1950s. Producer Bumps Blackwell, ever the pragmatist, recognized the song's undeniable power, but also its commercial impossibility in its original form. He famously asked Richard, "Do you have a grudge against making money?" This led to the rapid rewrite, where the explicit lines were replaced with innocent names like Sue and Daisy. In a mere 15 minutes, a song born from queer-coded rebellion, southern grit, and kitchen frustration was transformed into a mainstream hit. This transformation highlights the complex negotiations Little Richard had to make, sanitizing his art to reach a wider audience while still retaining its revolutionary spirit. Tutti Frutti became an anthem of a generation, a testament to the enduring power of music to transcend its origins and reshape culture. Then came Pat Boone, the clean-cut, wholesome crooner who seemed to embody everything Little Richard was not. Boone's sanitized version of Tutti Frutti sold 1 million copies, initially outselling Richard's original. For years, this act sparked debates about cultural appropriation and dilution. Yet, Little Richard, with his characteristic wisdom, wasn't angry. He saw Boone's version as a door that was locked, providing him with mainstream visibility he might never have achieved in racially segregated America. Boone, perhaps unwittingly, became a conduit, introducing millions to the sound that Little Richard had pioneered. Boone famously claimed he and Elvis were midwives at the birth of rock and roll. But as many rightly pointed out, Richard was the one giving birth. Boone was merely a nurse handing out towels. This perspective, delivered with a touch of humor, underscores Richard's profound understanding of his own role and the industry's dynamics. Boone's version, despite its sanitization, ultimately helped millions discover the true architect of modern music. Let's rewind the musical universe for a moment and truly grasp the magnitude of Little Richard's impact. When you listen to his music, you are hearing the ancestor of virtually every popular genre that followed: rock, pop, funk, soul, glam, metal, punk, R&B. His fingerprints are everywhere, from stage theatrics and gender-bending fashion to vocal acrobatics and queer performance art. A young Jimi Hendrix, who played guitar in Richard's band, absorbed his electrifying stage presence. James Brown, Otis Redding, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, Prince, Freddie Mercury, all acknowledged him as a primary source of inspiration. The Beatles sat at his feet like students before a professor of pure noise. Keith Richards' observation, "Watching him taught us how hard you might have to work to do this," perfectly encapsulates his role as a foundational teacher. Little Richard wasn't just a performer. He was a university of rhythm, movement, and soul. He didn't just influence artists, he birthed entire generations of sound and style. His legacy is not merely a footnote in music history. It is the very bedrock upon which modern popular music stands. Behind the makeup, the glam, and the iconic scream, Richard Penniman was a man in constant battle with himself. He grappled with his sexual identity, his deep religious faith, the pressures of superstardom, and the profound loneliness that often accompanies such a unique path. He navigated the complex interplay of freedom and expectation, joy and pain. Some days, he embraced his boldness. Other days, he feared it. He was proud of his queer identity at times, only to renounce it during periods of intense spiritual conviction. He felt divinely chosen, yet also spiritually tormented. But through all these contradictions, one constant remained: the music never stopped calling him. He was born to be loud, to break ceilings, to challenge norms, and to be unapologetically Little Richard. His life was a testament to the human struggle for authenticity, a powerful narrative for the LGBTQ community, and an inspiration for anyone who has ever felt torn between different aspects of their identity. His complexity made his brilliance shine even brighter, proving that true artistry often emerges from the crucible of internal conflict. When Queen performed Tutti Frutti in 1986 at Wembley, the crowd roared with thunderous approval. Freddie Mercury, a man who understood Richard's flamboyant genius more than most, sang it with pure, unadulterated joy. It wasn't just a tribute, it was an induction, a passing of the torch, and a profound acknowledgement of lineage. The new kings of stadium rock were bowing to the architect who had built their temple. This wasn't mere nostalgia. It was a powerful recognition of the enduring impact of Little Richard's vision. His influence was so pervasive that even decades later, the biggest bands in the world were still paying homage to his foundational sound and style. This moment at Wembley solidified his place not just as a pioneer, but as a timeless icon whose legacy continued to shape and inspire. It was a testament to the fact that his music, his style, and his spirit were not confined to a single era, but resonated across generations, a true royal succession in the annals of rock and roll. His life was a vibrant collision of joy and pain, sacred light and glittering chaos, faith and freedom, contradiction and courage. But if you strip away the theatrics, the makeup, the scandals, and the noise, you're left with something profoundly simple. Little Richard believed joy was holy. He believed music was a blessing. He believed that in a world filled with chaos, a scream could heal. He famously said, "In a world of chaos and commotion and strife, we need a little joy." And perhaps that is the most honest and enduring truth about why he mattered so much. He didn't just entertain, he uplifted, he liberated, he inspired. He taught us that authenticity, even in its most contradictory forms, is a powerful force for good. His music was a celebration of life, a defiant roar against conformity, and a passionate plea for self-expression. He showed us that true joy is a revolutionary act, and that sometimes the loudest voices are the ones that bring the most profound peace. His legacy is a reminder that to be truly alive is to be loud, to be loving, and to be unapologetically original. For decades, Little Richard watched as the world borrowed from him, used his sound, his style, his rhythm, his very blueprint. Yet, the mainstream accolades were slow to arrive. Award shows often overlooked him, magazine covers rarely featured him, and history books made convenient omissions. But then, a shift occurred. A new generation of artists, those who had grown up studying the greats, began to speak out. James Brown declared, "Little Richard was my idol." Prince openly emulated his stage presence and publicly thanked him. Michael Jackson visited his home, calling him "my inspiration." And the Beatles, the most famous band on earth, repeatedly stated, "We learned everything from Little Richard." Suddenly, the world had to confront an undeniable truth. If the biggest artists in history all pointed to the same man, then perhaps history needed to be rewritten. Slowly, the honors began to arrive. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted him in its first ever class in 1986, recognizing that you couldn't build a Hall of Fame without the man who built rock and roll. Even in this moment of long overdue recognition, Little Richard, ever the showman, cracked jokes backstage, refusing to take himself too seriously. That was his magic. Behind the eyeliner, the towering pompadour, and the glitter suits that could blind from a mile away, Little Richard was, surprisingly, a man of simple habits. He prayed every morning, ironed his own clothes, and traveled with both a Bible and 2 hot combs, just in case. But what most people didn't know was that he was fundamentally shy. Yes, the man who screamed, "Awop-bop-aloobop," on live television, who jumped on pianos and played them sideways, who dressed like a disco chandelier, was quiet at home. Soft-spoken, polite, almost gentle. His friends noted he never wanted to be a godfather of anything. He simply wanted people to have a good time and to know he meant no harm. Yet, beneath that humble personality, he carried an immense weight, the burden of being the first. The first to be copied, the first to be censored, the first to be misunderstood, the first to be told, "Tone it down," the first to be told, "No one will accept this." But he never toned it down, not once, not even on his worst days. Because Little Richard didn't just open the door to rock and roll, he blew it off the hinges, forever changing the landscape of music and culture. Tutti Frutti wasn't just a song, it was the first domino. And when it fell, the entire music industry, and indeed the world, changed. That opening scream, wild, unfiltered, and utterly captivating, made people feel alive. It made teenagers question conformity, thinking, why can't life be this fun? It forced record labels to realize that music could no longer be confined to a box. And crucially, it inspired artists to push louder, further, wilder. Every time a singer screams on stage, every time a performer wears something outrageous, every time a musician blurs the lines of gender, every time a crowd loses its mind, the second a song starts. That is Little Richard. That is Tutti Frutti. That is the spark he lit, and the flame he left burning. That flame never went out. It continues to illuminate stages, inspire artists, and ignite audiences today. His legacy is not just a collection of hit songs, it is a blueprint for artistic freedom, a testament to the power of authenticity, and a celebration of the revolutionary spirit that defines rock and roll. In his later years, Little Richard moved slower, but he remained undeniably Richard. Still loud, still glamorous, still wonderfully unpredictable. In interviews, he'd declare, "They didn't give me nothing, I gave them everything," followed by that inimitable, joyous laugh. He spoke of God, forgiveness, peace, and music as if it were a living, breathing entity. Despite declining health, his gratitude never faded. He constantly thanked his fans, audiences, and the world, even the same world that took too long to thank him back. When he passed away in 2020, the tributes poured in, not just as eulogies, but as powerful reminders. Reminders that he built the stage, shaped the sound, lit the fuse, and was the first spark in a long, loud revolution. A revolution that continues to this day. His passing marked the end of an era, but his spirit, his music, and his profound influence live on, echoing through every beat, every riff, and every scream that dares to challenge the status quo. He left us with a legacy of joy, defiance, and an unwavering belief in the power of self-expression. When Little Richard left this world in May 9, 2020, a collective pause rippled across the globe. Artists, presidents, fans, entire nations, everyone understood, you cannot remove Little Richard from music history. He is inextricably woven into the DNA of every beat, every riff, every scream, every burst of wild energy that has ever exploded from a stage. Without him, rock and roll would still exist, but it wouldn't look like that. It wouldn't sound like that, and it definitely wouldn't feel like that. Every performer who jumps on a speaker, every artist who dyes their hair a shocking color, every singer who mixes gospel passion with sinful swagger, every musician who dares to be too loud, too bright, too bold, too much. They are following the path Little Richard carved when there was no path at all. He didn't just open doors, he broke them. He didn't just entertain crowds, he electrified them. He didn't just influence artists, he birthed entire generations of sound. And perhaps that's the most Little Richard thing of all. He didn't just make music, he made history loud. Beyond the legacy, beyond the screaming crowds, beyond the sequins and eyeliner, there was something more. Little Richard never lost his humor. Even in his 80s, he'd shout in interviews, "I am the innovator, I am the emancipator, I am the originator," and then laugh at himself with infectious glee. He loved making people smile, loved telling stories, loved reminding the world that he was here first, but never with bitterness. Always with sparkle, always with a wink, always with charm. That was his light. That was his gift. And that was his final message to the world. Be who you are, be loud, be loving, be original. His life was a testament to the power of authenticity, a vibrant celebration of self in a world that often demands conformity. He taught us that true joy is a revolutionary act, and that sometimes the loudest voices are the ones that bring the most profound peace. His legacy is a reminder that to be truly alive is to be loud, to be loving, and to be unapologetically original. Tonight, as we look back at Tutti Frutti, that chaotic, explosive, euphoric scream of a song, we understand something we couldn't fully grasp back then. It wasn't just a track. It was a revolution disguised as a melody, a cultural earthquake disguised as a chorus, a declaration disguised as a party. It told the world, music will never be polite again. And that's why we salute Little Richard, the man whose voice shook the walls of the 1950s and still echoes across the 2020s. The man who sang the world into a new era with one impossible phrase, Awop-bop-aloobop, alop-bam-boom. His voice may be gone, but his echo? It's forever. His spirit, his music, and his profound influence live on, illuminating stages, inspiring artists, and igniting audiences for generations to come. He was, and always will be, the undisputed architect of rock and roll, a true legend whose light will never dim. Thank you for spending this moment with us, remembering a true giant of music history. If this tribute moved you, or brought back memories, or even made you smile, consider supporting this channel in the simplest way possible. By liking the video, sharing it with someone who loves music, and subscribing, so you never miss the next story we bring to life. Your support truly keeps this channel growing, and it means more than you know.